Okay, all right, okay. I went, hey everybody, it is 10:51 a.m. Pacific time, and I just ran into, because anywhere I go, there's somebody who's like, hey, what's going on? How's it going? And so I said to somebody, I was all excited, hey, it's looking good. And they're like, no, no, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me at all. Nothing. I don't want to hear anything. All right. So, folks, we got 24 hours and a little bit more till we're almost done with this election, and we have reason to be optimistic and hopeful today. So we're going to devote this podcast to one of the crucial dimensions of that hope and optimism, which is the appears incredible turnout and some women voters for President Kamala Harris. And that's going to be what we're going to do with the majority of this podcast. And to talk about that, I brought two folks who are just two really awesome, some of my favorite people, and also they've been on the podcast before. Dr. Kiana Scott, who runs Kiana Scott Strategies here in Seattle, which is an consulting firm around strategy and execution in the civic and philanthropic space. And she's working with us at Common Power, plus a longtime political veteran. All right. And then Miss Faye Barber Dansby, who is a professor at Purdue University and has been part of our Institute for Common Power and our Fieldwork, and is just a rock for your your heart and your determination, Miss Faye. So thank you both for coming today.
Thank you.
So my first question before we get to the main topic here is I want to ask you two how you're doing, and then I want to give a little fieldwork update for Common Power. So Dr. Kiana Scott, how you doing this morning?
Oh man, my blood pressure is high, my shoulders are up by my ears, I think my heart rate is going. I've definitely had way too much caffeine and not enough water. And I'm so nervous. And that is how I feel every single time that there's an election the following day, right? This is how we do it. So I'm totally terrified. I'm trying both not to read the news and can't tear myself away from every single thing that's happening right now. And I'm like, everything I have is crossed. Like I'm nauseously optimistic, as I saw someone on Twitter say. So I'm here, I just feel like I'm a collection of high-pitched noises at this point. Hey, how are you doing?
Miss Faye, how are you?
I'm optimistic. I was doing some work in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on Saturday and Southfield, Michigan on yesterday with When We All Vote. We were doing Party at the Polls. I'm a member of the AME Church of our Women's Missionary Society is a partner with When We All Vote. So the district I'm responsible for, Wisconsin, and so there was so much energy and excitement. There were people of all ages, different ethnic backgrounds, young people, and they were all excited. Most had already voted. Some we sent over to the early vote at the locations we were at. But the energy level and the enthusiasm is extremely high. That's what's got me optimistic, are the folks in Milwaukee and Southfield, Michigan I met.
Yeah, so I don't know any other way to deal with the anxiety except to do work at this time, right? Like, because you can't oh, I'm just gonna somehow ignore that. No, it's not. It's just you got to occupy yourself. You got to occupy yourself. So we want to start today with just a little pitch that, hey, this election looks good, but it is not over. All right. And we have to run all the way through this race. Okay. All the way, as they say in track and field, all the way through the tape. Okay. Through the finish. And at Common Power, we are working in 4 different states this last couple days. We've been working in 5, including Washington State, over the last weekend. And just as a little kind of celebration, because we often at Common Power highlight and accentuate the importance and the travel that we do to different states. I want to just take a second to give a shout out to our Washington State folks who are doing work for Marie Gluesenkamp Perez over the last couple of days. Of course, in that district, there have been somebody who firebombed a ballot box, and is trying to destroy our democracy, and particularly in a strong Democratic area of the district. We had 32 people both Saturday and Sunday who traveled to that district to do work for Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. And they knocked 670 doors on Saturday and 744 doors on Sunday. Okay. And then there's the phone callers on top of that, some who were calling because the Perez campaign had asked people to contact them to make calls to the people who were in that area where the ballot box had been arsoned, to make sure that their vote had gotten in, because obviously some people's votes haven't made it in because of that. And they wanted to do some phone banking around that, but they didn't turn that information out to everybody. They wanted specific targeted people they could trust making those calls. And so we had other people doing that. And Maria Jimenez has been our leader in our Washington state work, has been great. She was with us at Arizona, and so she had a couple of our volunteers that were driving this whole enterprise over the weekend. And big shout out to Cynthia Putnam and Teresa Mannix, who were doing that work and have both been part of our learning tours and have been part of those experiences and understand the commitment that we have to racial and voting justice. And just thank you all for all the work that you're doing. And the Gluesenkamp-Perez campaign said to, I'm not sure it was, who's that from? Oh yeah, said to Cynthia that because of the Common Power work over the last couple of months are showing up, the work we've been doing, they've been able to double the number of doors that they had hoped to knock this campaign. That's the kind of work that we have to do. That's how you win. And so Kiana Scott, who's like, what number were you in the Obama campaign in 2008?
I think I was the 293rd staff member hired back when he was, just this guy with big ears and a funny name, junior senator from neighboring Illinois.
Right. Well, that's a badge of honor. It really is that you did that work and you worked in all these states. What would be your prescription for the next 24 hours for us?
Drink water. Don't drink as much caffeine as you think you need. But this is a time to do something, to listen to Michelle Obama, to stop scrolling the news, to make phone calls, to text your friends who live in swing states. Just a final reminder. I saw someone on Twitter say earlier today that they were making phone calls through Kamala Harris's website, and they left messages for about 20 minutes straight. And then they finally got a real live human on the other end of the call. And the person said, no, the election's not Tuesday. And they said, yes, it is. And they reminded that person to go cast their ballot. These races are presidential on down to every local election. There are going to be some really tight races this year. Every single vote is going to count. It's going to matter. So this is a really good time to, take a moment, take care of yourself, read the news if that makes you feel better or if that helps you feel up to speed on things, but then step away from that for a little while and go take action and be part of this. It will feel even better on November 6th if you've taken that last step.
Yeah, thank you. So that's what our charge is, from Michelle Obama to us, to you, to everybody. Let's do something, another final something this last 28 to 30 hours or so. Let's do something. Call, text, knock doors, make another donation to support the folks that are doing that work. Okay. So I want to now pivot in this podcast to talking about if/when Kamala Harris wins this election. A major storyline is almost certainly going to be the support that she has received among women voters in this country. How great that will be, we don't know, but some early data has given us some sense of that possibility. And actually, I'm gonna start with you, Ms. Fay, and then come to you, Kiana, to talk you talk some data with us, Dr. Scott. And Fay, I want you to, Fay, if I would have said to you, we're going to be on this podcast the day before the election, and we're going to be talking about the importance of women voters. If we'd have said that 6 months ago, a year ago, 4 years ago, would you have been surprised that we're here talking about this?
I would be if you went further back, then probably, well, Probably not, because I was protesting in 22. Because Indiana was one of the first states that changed everything after
Mm,
Dobbs fell in the Supreme Court. So I saw the number of women mobilized, even in Indiana, and knew that it wasn't going to go away because pregnancies happen daily and miscarriages happen daily, and it's personal. And so I felt it wouldn't wane. And most women, you know, there's a story they all have to tell in one way or another.
yeah, it seems to me what I've heard from the analysts is that abortion has shifted as an issue in the society from merely about reproduction to actually a total health issue, right?
Yeah,
The issue of how it is more, it is not morphed, it has been strategically explained
yeah.
into that reality so that someone like me gets it in a different way today. I certainly embody that shift in my last 5 years of my life of understanding it in a different way. Yes.
And I think Michelle Obama sealed the deal when she directly talked to men at that one rally. I think it was, I'm not sure what city, it was Atlanta or somewhere. And she went through from the whole women's reproductive
Mm-hmm.
timeline from when they're teenagers to menopause, and how all of that is at risk. And now, you know, basically miscarriages have been criminalized, and so many women have had to go through the process of having a DNC. And I have never seen anything so thoroughly explained, that my mother at 88 years old called me crying right after that because she felt seen.
Mm.
And the whole story had been told, that we've always been in the shadows and it's our own business and we don't talk about it. And Michelle Obama brought it to the forefront for the whole.
Yep. Yep. She sure did. That speech.
Yep.
Yep. So many things that she's done, obviously, but that particular speech. Let's start there, Dr. Kiana, with that speech and then into this kind of broader where we're at in the campaign.
Oh, well, I think, Faye, you're exactly right. I mean, Michelle Obama is the single best public orator in our country, in our party, in contemporary America. And that speech was her at the absolute pinnacle of her power. And what an incredible moment to hear someone with her platform, with her experience, standing up on stage, talking about suffering from cramps, talking about suffering, talking about feeling a lump in your breast, things
Mhm.
that women experience all the time that we have never, ever heard addressed on the national and international stage in that way. I think I mean, thinking about your 88-year-old mother calling you crying is just so moving to me, because that's the world that I want my daughter to grow up in, to hearing about things that reflect her reality as she gets older. I mean, it's really amazing to have so many women come together and say, yeah, that is my life. And David, I appreciate you talking about the move that you've made over the past 5 years from really shifting your understanding of this experience. Women voters are doing a lot of really interesting things right now. My hope, my expectation is that they and we show up for Kamala Harris tomorrow the way that we have been in this early voting period. We're seeing
Yep.
a lot of signals that's what's happening. We know that polls only matter if the people do what they say they're going to do, but
Mhm.
but polls right now are really indicating that there's a surge of women for Kamala Harris in a meaningful and impactful way.
So we see that in a variety of places, but nowhere more did we see that, and nowhere more did the political earthquake kind of arrive than Saturday night with the Des Moines Register's poll by Ann Selzer. Ann Selzer is considered kind of like an oracle in the polling industry. She gets things right before others does, and she's willing to publish polls that run counter to what conventional wisdom is. And then she often is right, and conventional wisdom was wrong. So I want to ask you about that particular poll and have each of you say a little bit about that, because Faye, and you two are two of the most down in the weeds people that I know on politics. So you'll be able to talk about this. But I just want to say that Marcy Wheeler, who tweets and is well known as Empty Wheel on Twitter, and is a political consultant and a strategist, she's got the tweet that wins the internet. I think she tweeted it right after Selzer came out. The poll came out and said, male pollster tied, male pollster tied, male pollster tied, male pollster tied, female pollster, Harris is going to win. All right. And like, that's what it took. It took Selzer, right? So what did she tell us? What did she tell us, Dr. Scott?
Well, she told us that Harris is ahead by 3 points in Iowa, 47 to 44. That is a sea change from the conventional wisdom of polls, which have all sort of grouped into this really, really narrow race. But this is important for a couple of reasons, right? Iowa isn't a battleground state.
No.
It is a state that Trump is widely expected to win. There haven't been conversations about Iowa at the national level for months and months and months. Like, truly, Harris and Iowa haven't been in the same sentence for me. Harris has only been in the race for what, 104 days? Iowa was, I don't know that she's visited there. She may have, but Iowa has not been a focus the way that the 7 battleground states have been. For her to come from behind, out of the blue, and have this poll be publicized days before the election is important, not only because of what it means, but because of what it signals. There is such a feeling of momentum right now. And Faye, I think this is sort of this is related to what you were saying earlier. The vibes are really good. There is a feeling of enthusiasm, of optimism, of we might do this, we can do this. And then having data like Ann Selzer's poll not only mirror, but lead that is a really powerful combination. I don't know anyone who didn't feel a boost getting that news last weekend.
And the basis of the poll, the fundamental dimension within the poll that is driving this finding was this incredible support among older women, right?
Incredible support among older women. And older women are a group who are high propensity voters. As women, as people age, their voting rate tends to be higher. I will challenge any Gen Z listeners right now to prove them wrong. Your generation, my generation, millennials needs to go vote. But right now, the older people are, the more likely they are to vote. And women are more likely to vote than men universally. I'll just let that rest. I won't make any implications there. But older women are high propensity voters. They're consistently voting. There was a recent report from AARP conducted by the Republican pollster Kristen Solis-Anderson, Democratic pollster Margie Omero. 63 million women voters are eligible to vote who are over 50 in this country this year. 97% of them have indicated that they will vote. Wow. That's an astounding number. And the exciting thing is they're showing movement. They are not showing that they are tied to one person, to one party. In the Iowa poll, they moved decisively to Harris. That moved the entire poll, the entire state, decisively to Harris. We're seeing that shift happen around the country. One of the things that I find really interesting, or really important, and that I'll certainly be watching tomorrow is the last time voters age 65 and older went for Democrats, that demographic of all sexes, was in 2000 with Al Gore. This could be a year where that demographic goes for Kamala Harris for the Democratic Party. There are 5 of the 7 battleground states that have higher than average numbers of people who are 65 and plus. That's North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. Those are key states. Harris and Trump both need those states.
And then kind of hanging out there is a Florida, which has got a lot of these voters too.
Hanging out there is a Florida, which has a lot of things going on. Yeah. Absolutely.
And they have an abortion. They have an abortion initiative on the ballot, right?
Incredibly important abortion initiative on the ballot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I say to you, what I find when they poll Iowa, you by definition get a lot of white voters. You by definition get a lot of white voters. So what we're seeing is maybe white women are coming this way towards Harris, all right? African American women, of course, have been standing over here saying, come on, we're over here waiting. So what are your impressions of this, what we'll call this kind of this potential gender quake? Okay.
Well, and with Iowa, they have a six-week ban. And
Yes.
so that's a big driver too. And so it is, that again, that's there. And
real quick on that, Selzer was interviewed on Sunday, and she said that she began to see this shift in the summer in Iowa when that 6-week ban went into effect. Yep.
A theme that we're noticing across multiple states, by the way, is this tight connection between abortion bans and women mobilizing. Please continue, Faye.
What I found interesting too, we go to Georgia for a second, is when I look at the early vote, and can you believe they've had 4 million people to early vote?
I know.
In 2020, for the whole voting was 4.8 million.
Yes.
So
it's amazing.
I'm like, they're about done. and then the interesting thing was from the, and I know we all look at the same thing, the gentleman that does all the McDonald from Florida. With his early voting data. It was the 41 to 65-year-olds that were doing the most of the early voting, which is odd because normally it's the 65 plus. But they were, and I'm like, that's different. And so there's a lot of stories in Georgia too, because it was the 41 to 65-year-olds that early voting turnout.
And the gender breakdown of that vote in Georgia is 11% plus woman. Okay.
Yep.
So and at least 80% of the vote is already in Georgia.
Yep.
All right. And this is the case across almost every battleground, is women are outvoting men by lot. They always outvote men, as Kiana, as you said, but the numbers are even bigger than normal, right?
And we're also seeing that proportion hold true. There's a shift this year, right? This is the first presidential election since 2020, obviously, but since we voted for the president during a pandemic. That shifted how we vote in this country. A lot of people voted early, a lot of people voted by mail who didn't do that previously. Democrats always push early voting. Republicans don't. Republicans have spread a lot of misinformation about early voting. This year, they're doing something tricky where they're both trying to set up some misinformation, but also encouraging Republicans to vote early. So we are, in fact, seeing a higher number of Republicans voting early this year, but that gender gap is maintained.
Yeah, and they're potentially voting for Harris in some large number, right? So the Republicans get their wish this time around, right?
Yeah.
And in those kind of sorry, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
I think, Faye, I'd be really curious to hear what else.
Oh, yes.
Oh, David, you're back. Go for it.
Well, I think you were going to go the same place. So, Faye, part of the reason I asked you to be on this podcast is because I love you. Okay, that's part of it. The other part of it is because, okay, thank you. Is because I've personally been connected to a body of African American women that are part of a group called Win with Black Women. And so could you tell us a little bit about that entity and how you started? And then last night, I believe the vice president came and talked to you, right, on Zoom.
Yeah, I wasn't on it because I was driving back from Michigan, so I missed that part of it. But again, this was a group of women led by Jotega Edie, who saw that and convinced enough of the heavy hitters, Donna Brazile and Mignon Moore and Bishop Leah Daughtry, that she saw, I think it was July of 2020, that Black women could have a high impact and could be able to push the presidential candidate first to select Kamala Harris. Mm-hmm. And they started off supporting her in the primary.
Okay.
And then when she left that, then they said the next plan of attack was to make sure she was the vice presidential or on the ticket as vice president, and had a lot of conversation with the Biden team, and eventually she was, of course, selected. And again, doing it from the standpoint, because again, everyone knows Black women vote in a massive block, and we vote for our best interest and the interest of others. And with that, having a conversation with the team, by the team to say, do you want this election to go easy or hard? And we can make this easy for you if she's selected, which eventually she was. And then all that time, I didn't realize they were meeting every Sunday evening for the last 4 years.
Wow.
And so then when, and again, it was a body who stuck with Biden. So when you and even I were going at it, David, that, because we believe if the powers that be moved him, they were going to move her as well.
Yeah.
Out of the way. And so they immediately, that Sunday, I'll never forget it, had that meeting, and we were watching Donna Brazile whip up delegates in real time that night. And Star Jones set up funding that night that we would bring money and delegates to those who were going to want to do something different. And we know, and then the next day, Black men did the same thing, and the rest is kind of history.
Yep.
But that group has been amazing with and I mean, it's the power hitters. I mean, whether it's, again, Donna Brazile, Dr. Janetta Cole, who's in her 80s, Dr. Hazel Dukes, who has been around, she's in her 90s, and just been the mentors and advisors for multiple generations of women to come together. And I'm still blown away. And last night we were close to raising $3 million for the Harris Victory Fund. So we stayed on, and there started being this challenging the Divine Nine, challenging the teachers union, because everybody was on the call last night. And this was after hours. So the YouTube channel had been cut off already of it. So this was just, let's just chill and wind down. And Star Jones got on and said, we're close, maybe by $75,000. And in a matter of minutes, I think we finished up at 3.1 million.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it was just growing. I mean, UAW was on, AFT was on, NEA was on. Everybody was on last night, and they were all challenging each other to donate again, and everybody collectively did it. So the collective team and community that's been created around this campaign is, I'm sure, unprecedented.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that comes from her at the top and the way that she leads, right? And there's going to be a lot to analyze and study here, but I think that's part of the energy. I remember Obama in 2008, and obviously Dr. Kana, you were there, and Faye, I'm sure you were very involved. And that energy was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. This is also amazing, and it's different. Yes.
It is different.
And I keep coming back to this, but Barack Obama had years of time to build that energy, to strategize, to put plans in place, to have conversations behind the scenes. Kamala Harris has been running for president for like 100 days. That's like 2 minutes in the grand scheme of things. So she is walking and chewing gum at the same time while writing a symphony, while cooking a turkey, while, creating world peace. Like, she is doing it all right in front of our eyes. And that's really, really inspiring.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that almost everything is harder for women, because this has to be the most challenging presidential race ever. It's certainly the most expensive, but for her, it's also the most condensed. It's not for Donald Trump. He's been running for president 3 times now, right? If you are under the age of 30, you have never been legally able to vote in a presidential election without Donald Trump on the ballot.
Wow.
Which is depressing.
It's
Kamala
so
Harris has been running for a hot second, and she has impressive, in-depth policies that she has been sharing. Donald Trump doesn't have those. She also has impressive, in-depth policies that are specifically geared towards the concerns of women and older women. And so it's no accident that women are flocking to her, because not only is she, this leader of this really powerful collective energy in this movement, but when she gets in office, she's going to change the care economy. She's going to change prescription drug pricing. She's going to address these issues that older women care about, that other people care about too, but specifically that older women care about. And they're saying, we trust her on those issues.
Yeah. Yeah, as we kind of begin to wrap this up, it seems to me that her phrasing of "we're not going back," which she was advised by advisors to not go with, and she's like, "No, F you. I'm following my instincts, my beliefs on this. That we're not going back." Captures the whole damn thing that you're talking about. We're not going back, and that has been so like. In this case, it's raced and it's gendered, right? It's both. And those dimensions together that's the intersectionality for the win, actually, as opposed to often for the detriment.
One thing that I just have been thinking about obviously since Kamala Harris has been in this race, but that I can't stop thinking about the last couple of days. So for a 70-year-old woman today was 19 when Roe v. Wade passed, when abortion became legal in this country, 19. I can't imagine being that age and thinking about my kids, maybe my grandkids, having fewer rights than I had for the majority of my life. 50 years ago, a woman in this country couldn't get a credit card without her husband, or probably her father, but without someone else being on it. She couldn't get a credit card in her own name. There are very, very real and very specific things that Kamala Harris does not want us as a country to go back to. And I don't have evidence for this. I'm not looking at a poll that says that's why older women are voting for her. I cannot believe that there isn't a deep, deep connection between what women of that generation have seen shift in their lifetime, what they have caused to shift. So many women have been active and politically engaged, have been pushing for this, have been high propensity voters the whole dang time. They are not willing to go back. They are pushing other people not to go back. I think that's incredibly powerful.
Tell us about
It
this,
is.
Faye. Yeah.
It really is, because there's a print that I send out almost every day on Facebook where women, their backs are to us, they're kind of arm in arm, some have jeans on, they're different ethnic groups, but you see the back of them. And as they're walking forward, so they're walking forward, and it says, "We will not go back."
Mm.
We will not go back. And I send it out every day. And it is so powerful because, again, older women remember. That's why my mother, it hit her so much. And why she stays glued to the TV. Because she said, "I remember what it was like." So that group remembers what it was like. And it's become very personal. And Project 2025 does not help. And again, and they most know about it, know parts of it. And it is just, I think it's just a time where a group has put their foot down and it said, we can go along with some things, but not this. It's a bridge too far. And there's been a massive overreach by these states.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of women know women are not national citizens in this country. But laws are different from state to state. We don't have national citizenship. And that message has gotten out too.
In Oklahoma, Leslie Benningfield Randall, one of the last known living survivors of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, voted 2 days ago. She is 109 years old. When she was born, women could not vote, right? She voted. It's like that, to vote and to capture all of this at this moment feels like a bending the arc moment. All right. And to kind of see this happen and to watch this happen and to be, in that jet stream is remarkable. Now, to finish up the podcast for today, why I do want African-American women voters are strong Democratic voters. They are the most consistent turnout category of folks in the population, election after election. What's happening here is white women voters are coming this way too, white women voters. So can you both give me your take on why that's happening here and how this may relate to Dobbs, okay, or whatever life's experiences they are, and to finish this podcast. So it's white women voters are coming this way in a way that they haven't before. So Faith, I want to start with you on your, and feel free to tell us candidly. All right.
I think some of them they're doing a do-over because they messed up in 2016. And a lot of us had conversations with that group. And I told some of my lighter persuasion sisters that if you guys don't get this fixed in 18, 20, and 22, I mainly said 2018, we're going to have a problem with each other because you're not doing the work I'm doing to talk with your own community because you don't want to rock the cradle. You don't want to be uncomfortable and you want things to be okay with your community of sisters you're around or family members. I said, but if you guys don't fix this, and they have, 2018, so the trends are moving this way anyway. 2018, 2020, 2022 have been because white women have moved a little bit. And again, this one, the states went a bridge too far with a lot of their legislators. We've heard the stories of women dying now, women getting sepsis, and having to have this horrific situation. We've all heard the stories. So I think that's some of it too. And if I could just throw, I couldn't wait till we get finished, but I got a little piece to add to this why I think we're going to be victorious. But I'll bring that up later. I'll let Dr. Scott go first. But I want to kind of bring that back in later, David, if I could.
Sure. We'll come back to you to close this, okay?
Okay.
Faye, I loved what you said about a do-over. I mean, I think that's right. I think it's about damn time that white women got with the picture. And I will never fully understand, as a white woman who obviously has voted against Trump every time and will as long as I need to. I don't understand why white women voted for him. I don't understand why anyone voted for him. But I think it's really, really important that this is the first presidential election without a national protection for abortion access. That we have seen that firing people up in red states, in blue states, Kansas, Kentucky, all across the board, right? That is meaningful, and it is no accident that Kamala Harris has made abortion access a cornerstone of her campaign and a cornerstone of her time as vice president. Both before Dobbs was passed down, and after. She has been doing the work. She has been focused on this throughout her time on the national stage. But she's really carried that through her presidential election. She is on a reproductive freedom tour, on bus tours. I've said this on the podcast before, but she was the first vice president to go to an abortion clinic. That's not an accident. She had Michelle Obama and Beyonce talk about the importance of reproductive care using their huge platforms. Again, not an accident. She knows that this is a winning issue for her, that this is a winning issue for women, for anyone who could become pregnant and doesn't want to be or can't. That's what I think this comes down to. There are other issues, but that to me is the big defining policy issue and personal issue of this election. And I think it's tragic that that's what it took for white women to come around. But I hope that my sisters do the right thing here and go for Harris in resounding numbers, because white women have not voted for Democrats in the past in the majority. The majority of women vote for the Democrat. That is because of Black women, because of other women of color, not because of white women.
Yeah.
So it's our time to do the right thing here.
Yep.
Go ahead, Miss Faye, please.
And for me, the signs just tell me we're going to be okay tomorrow. For the simple fact, Kamala Harris turned 60 years old this year. This is the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. Next year is the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. And Inauguration Day is on King Day.
It is. I
That
know.
alignment, I don't think is coincidence. I just believe the alignment is where it should be for this part of history of this country and where we are as a collective people. That she was destined to be where she's at, to do what she needs to do with the background she's got, coming from those roots of Oakland when Oakland was the place to be, for being rooted in your culture and having that foundation of power and strength that she has, and her and even her background from her mother, and then to have a partner like she has, it's just all aligned to me.
Hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. I wanna finish with this. This is a TikTok reel or video. I don't know what you call it. TikTok, what the word?
Just a TikTok.
It's a TikTok that's just going crazy today. Okay. And it's a good close and it makes you cry. Good cry. This is our moment, folks. This is our chance. Yesterday, this weekend in Arizona, there was a volunteer who told this story. They were knocking doors as volunteer. Somebody I've known for a long time, came from Seattle, and she and the 3 other people in her carpool, and they're all over 60 years old, all white, pull up in a neighborhood, and they get out and they're starting to knock doors. And somebody pulls up into a driveway and has a Trump flag on their car. And it said, guy gets out of the truck, and says, "What are you doing? What are y'all doing here? We're knocking doors for Harrison Walls." And he says, "You need to get out of here. You need to get out of this neighborhood. You need to leave now." And he was very aggressive. And you run into this out there door knocking fairly regularly. And they said, "Well, okay, all right, thank you." And they started to kind of step back, and he kept moving towards them. And then his wife came around the car, and she kind of took his elbow, said, "Come on, honey, let's go." And they turned around and walked into the house, and she turned around on her shoulder and she said, "I voted for Harris." Okay. That's what she said. She mouthed it to them. To me, that's it right there. Okay. Women have said, we're not going back. Men, it's great for us to be along on this journey. Let's do our duty too, right? We know we are, for America, for this world. Thank you too so much for your time. All right, let's get this done. We're on the verge.
Thanks, David. Let's get to work.
Yeah, still got work to do.
Yep. Good night. Let's go.
Good night. See ya.